Now what we need to do again is isolate the part of the eye that we want to work on and deal with how we would get different feather values on the finished selection. So for this, we're going to use a pen tool because we're going to do a couple of very simple paths that we will turn into selections. So on the left-hand side of your tools palette, you have the standard Bezier pen tool. I want you to go ahead and select that. Make sure that none of the others are highlighted, just the standard pen tool. But very importantly, we're not going to draw a shape layer here. We want to draw a path. A lot of people don't realize that these icons up here in the options palette do allow you to make that change. If we started drawing with this left-hand one selected, we're going to draw a brand new layer filled with white at this point because that's our foreground color. We don't want to do that. I want you to select the second icon, which will draw a path only. That will appear inside the Paths palette on the right-hand side. Go ahead and select the Paths palette over here so we can see what happens as we go along. Now, the first thing I want to do is draw the path that will define the shape of the eyelids, okay? Now, we don't have to follow the entire amount of detail. We've got two very simple top and bottom areas that we need to highlight. So all I'm going to do is simply click to create one point over here on the left-hand side. Put my cursor somewhere up here on the right, click and drag out a handle, okay? Now, this gives me a curve I can work with. If I let go, I can always hold down the Apple key or the Control key on the PC, grab that handle, and just pull it into position. Choose what works for you. That's pretty good. I then need to chop off this handle, so I'm going to hold down the Option key or the Alt key on the PC and simply click on it. That'll leave the previous curve, but allow me to come straight down here with a single click to draw my next piece of the path. Once again, come across to the lower left-hand side, and this doesn't have to be much of a curve, so I could draw this in one go, and by all means, just click to close the path, and it will be finished there. Now this draws the first path, which you can see is called Work Path over here inside the Paths palette. Now it's up to you if you want to save the path. We simply want to turn this into a selection. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, again, hold down the Apple key or the Control key, click on the name of the path, turn it into a selection, and then come to the Channels palette. We can see our red, green, blue channels, as well as the hue saturation mask we currently have active. Just simply click down here to create a new channel from the current selection. You can see it appears there in Alpha 1. Now what we can do, Command D or Control D to deselect, come back to the paths, and now draw a brand new path for the part of the eye that we want to keep in focus. So I'm actually going to start up here, roughly about there, bring my cursor down to the lower right-hand side of the eye, and click and drag once again to draw a curve. And again, use the Apple key or the Control key to just pull that curve into the position of the eye I would like to cover. Okay, somewhere around there. Once again, let's chop it off, come to about here with another straight point, and then simply click and drag to the upper left to define the area on the right side of the eye. Once again, chop it and close it. That now gives us the overall selection. Obviously, we're not going to use these outer points. That's why we've drawn the other path. And just like we did a second ago, let's go ahead and make a selection of that. Command click it or Control click it on the PC. Go to the Channels palette and save that selection into a channel. Go ahead and deselect, and by all means hit the V key to get yourself off the pen tool.